Hey everybody, it's Craig here, and today we're going to be talking about the WATERMAN'S number 7 pen, a pen I've talked about before on this channel, but this is going to be a little more in-depth, along with writing samples, so let's get right into it. Before we can really go back and talk about what the WATERMAN number 7 is, we have to go back in time to 1915, when the 15 PSF was first introduced. This is a WATERMAN 15 PSF. It is from about 1915, 1916. It is in black chased hard rubber, and it is the exact same thing as a WATERMAN'S number 7. It is the same size, has the same parts and everything. It's just this is the first introduction into marketing, something WATERMAN hadn't really gotten into yet. Here is a 55. This is an employee pen. Same thing as you see next to a WATERMAN number 7. It is identical. It is the same size, and as you can see with the nibs, other than there being a keyhole, it is just a number 5 size nib on there. And again, one more 55 just for fun, and it was from Prudential Insurance, and this was a prize for this guy for doing 40 straight weeks of making a new account at his insurance agency. Again, just marked 55. But WATERMAN decided that they wanted to move into marketing. Here I have the 1925 WATERMAN'S catalog. We got for $6.50, we have a number 55 in mottled. So it's only like a 50-cent difference between a 55 and a number 7. Here's a new thing, we can charge more for it. This is a receipt with the number 7 red, 7 green, 7 purple, pink, blue, and yellow. And if you go back to my old video from 2 years ago, where I set out to collect all of these pens, I tell the whole story of how I got this, and I didn't know anything about the pens. And now I have since completed that set. So I have the red, the green, the purple, the pink, the blue, the yellow, the brown, and the gray. So I will go through all of these and what they mean. The whole slogan was it's the number 7 for $7 in 6 different styles. And since that marketing didn't make too much sense for them, they moved away from that and went into 7 different styles. And then they later added an 8th, a 9th, and then there was a mystery 10th white that doesn't actually exist, but maybe it did, but who knows. Original WATERMAN'S model pens went from something like this to something like this, where they had this wood grain look. And then with the WATERMAN'S number 7, they created this ripple, which was very popular, but at the same time, they didn't have to innovate too much because it was still the same hard rubber that they had been making for decades by this point. But this is the red. This is a first generation red. You can tell because it has no white rings. See, on later models, they added these white rings so that you could see it from a distance. Whereas with this, it was hard to tell what model it was, or if it was too dark, it was hard to tell which one you were picking up. So first generation, no white cap bands. So this is from 1927, and it's in lovely condition. Number 7 on the bottom, but all these parts are interchangeable with other ripple number 55s. It's just, you know, if you want to have one that's more original, it'll say number 7 on the bottom, and it'll have the finial with the cap band on there. Also, the 1927 models said clip cap still, and has this nice wide clip. Again, the later models have a more narrow looking clip that say WATERMAN'S on it. Each nib says what kind of nib it is. So red being standard, it's the one that's made for most writers. And here is the writing sample and how it looks. Again, nice little semi-flex and really good for most writers. So this is the green. It is the salesman's friend. So it has a very armor-plated, tough as nails nib that does not flex. It is like a medium with no flex, and it was made for carbon copy paper for salespeople. That way you could push down really hard and your invoices would go through. Again, just says green on the nib. These aren't the most highly sought after because it doesn't have that same sort of line variation character that people look for when they want to get an antique WATERMAN, but still pretty cool to have. Another indication on the pens is the early models don't say ripple on it. So right underneath where it says fountain pen, a later model might say ripple. Here's that writing sample. As you can see, as hard as I push down, there is no flex whatsoever. Still really nice pen, wonderful condition. Not everyone would get the set. You don't need the set of these pens. Nowadays, yeah, you want to get the set, but back then you would only get what you really needed. Next we have purple. This was for the accountants, people that write really small. It is fine with no flex. Again, this is another one that is not highly sought after by people. It's also one of the more affordable ones. You can find it out there. Purple has that really sharp tip on there. Here in the writing sample, you can see what I mean. It's just really fine. It writes like a modern pen with no flex, a modern steel pen with with a nice fine point to write really small. This is a second generation, so it has those 2 white bands, but it still says clip cap on the clip. This is the king of them all. This is the one that everyone wants. This is the Waterman number 7 pink. There's 2 that are really sought after. There's the pink and the black. Thing to note is they are exactly the same thing. As the story goes with the Waterman pink, this is the stenographer's pen, but men didn't want to buy the pink pen because they felt it was just too effeminate for them, especially with pink on the nib and the pink cap band. This is the most flexible. It is almost difficult to control because of how flexible the nib is. It is like the best pen ever for Spencerian writing. Again, amazing. It's also the most expensive one that is common. You can find a Waterman number 7 pink. Since men didn't want this, they later turned the pink into the black, which is extremely rare, very hard to come by. They sell for upwards of $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. But if you can find a pink, usually about $1,500. Still very expensive, but there are different versions of the pink. So the pink went from being this super flexible stenographer's pen to later becoming just a fine bookkeeper's pen, semi-flex. So there are different versions of the pink. This one is one of the more highly sought after, very flexible stenographer ones. Here's that writing sample. As you can see, it's just incredible with the flex. There's nothing out there that really writes like these old pink Waterman pens. But as the pink became something else, I'll get into the fate of the pink and what kind of happened to it after it became the black. The next one we have is the blue. The blue is the stub or the blunt. So it has a nice stub on it. It's just a nice early one. Here's the writing sample. I love a stub nib. Wonderful writers. And if you have like a heavier hand or you just have you don't need the flex, this is a wonderful pen for you. Next we have the yellow. The yellow is for southpaws. It is for left-handed people. This was basically a ballpoint before there was ballpoints, but it was an upturned nib that was made that you could write either left-handed or right-handed. And surprisingly enough, the yellow has some really good flex on it too. So if you can find a yellow out and about, they're still hard to come by, but if you can find one, they're great. And if you're a lefty, here is your number 7. Here's the writing sample. As you can see, it does have some really good flex on it. Really nice to find this. And that really caps off my original 6 Waterman number 7s, as they realized that the marketing wasn't very good. Let's do a 7th. So they actually came out with 2 later on. There was the brown, which later became the pink. So if you find a pink that isn't as flexible as the earlier ones, it's probably a rebranded brown. So this later became the pink, but it is a nice semi-flex fine pen for bookkeepers, and they are hard to come by, but it is like basically this is a pink but from after 1928. And here is the gray. The gray is very rare, and I got a screaming deal on this from a friend. I paid $250 for this gray. I was expecting to pay way more for it, but it has a italic nib on it, and it had a big crack going down the middle. Greg Manuskin laser welded it, fixed it up. It writes great. Here is the little writing sample, and it's for people that have to hold their pen at a different angle. My buddy David Garcia would absolutely love this pen because he has like this sort of upside down writing. The one caveat with this pen is it had the letter K carved into the barrel, into the cap, and into the top of the finial. So this is a replacement cap and finial, and I still have that original barrel with the K carved in it. I mean, if it's your pen, you can do whatever you want with it. Now there's the elusive white that doesn't exist. There was a tray that existed, I guess, with white on it. White was supposed to be coarse or broad, and my guess is maybe it could have existed. Later versions of the number 7 came in celluloid. They would have these little markers on the butt end of the pens that told you what color it was, so what nib it was, and the much later ones didn't say anything at all on them. I highly recommend them. They're definitely cool pens. They also made the number 5, which had a flared cap, and it was a little bit smaller. It was like a number 52 sized pen, and it came in 5 colors. I had 2 of them at one point in time. I sold both of them because I wasn't really interested in collecting those. After this, they made the patricians, and then they sort of slowly moved away from the numbering system that I love so much. Waterman number 7 was the start of the end for the Waterman's Ideal Fountain Pen brand, in my opinion, but they're still lovely pens. They're still number 55s, and it's cool getting a whole set. I just need black, but it's not something something that I'm dying to get. I'm not dying to pay that much money for a pen that I basically already have in the pink. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Do you have any Waterman's number 7s? Is this something that really interests you guys? This was my first set that I ever set out to get in my collection. Thanks so much, you guys, for checking out this video. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at Roccanova, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Have a wonderful day. Peace. Alright, so today's video is about, I have these things, and I'm gonna be sure to, here's all my Waterman number 7 pens. Lovely pens. They are the oldest, they are the newest pens that I collect from Waterman's. And I just think they're really nice, and they're cool, and I wanna get you guys, yeah, you'll see my whole process of getting ready for filming. I need to get into this display case, because in there is I have some Red Wing boots that I need to move out of the way. This is from IKEA. All this junk inside of it, very nice. So where I keep all my extra boxes. Aha! There it is. Looks sturdy enough. All right, let's put this camera on here. Let's make a whole YouTube video.